Hello. Today we're going to discuss Chapter 5. It's part of the empirical post-positivist theories section, and the subsection of it, interpersonal, concerning relationship development. So uncertainty reduction theory basically says that when we have an interaction, we're often uncomfortable because we're uncertain about what's going to happen. That's it in a nutshell. As actors, we or the person we're talking with will try to employ certain strategies and tactics in order to reduce the uncertainty, reduce the discomfort. That's what this chapter is about. So looking here, says it right here, theory at a glance. When strangers meet, their primary focus is on reducing their level of uncertainty in the situation because uncertainty is uncomfortable. Then it goes on to develop that. So that's why we have that at a glance. Again, we have a long chapter here that goes into many factors about uncertainty reduction theory. Here we're looking at a glance, what it is, what the common sense definition is. We talk about putting it into action. So there's an example here. So you can read that, it's from the book. So what are some of the assumptions behind this theory? Well, one of these is that uncertainty is stressful. It can create cognitive stress. It stresses our brains. So when we meet someone we don't know, the first thing we want to do is try to reduce uncertainty and make the interaction more predictable. So when we talk with someone, the conversation, the interaction develops over time in stages. And these stages act to reduce our uncertainty. Generally, as we talk more and more with people, the quantity and the personal nature, perhaps, of the information that we're going to share is going to change. And we can predict the other person's behavior, even if they're a stranger, because there are certain laws of communication, certain social laws that can be applied. So this slide talks about some of the processes we use to reduce uncertainty. It also talks about two different kinds of uncertainty. Cognitive uncertainty, which is about what we think, what we believe, and how we feel, and behavioral uncertainty. How much can we predict about how the stranger we're talking to is going to behave? We can use a proactive process, which involves predicting how a person might react based on a certain set of reasonable alternatives. A retroactive process, after the person has acted, we're trying to figure out why they acted the way they did. And finally, self-disclosure. These are definitions. That means that we have revealed private information about oneself to another. It doesn't mean like telling some stranger your bank account number. It means disclosing things like, where'd you grow up? How are you feeling right now? This type of thing. And here we look at 3 stages of the interaction. Obviously, there's an entry stage when you first meet the person. We're just beginning to communicate. There's a personal phase where we become more spontaneous because we're getting more comfortable. And finally, an exit phase where we decide whether we're going to interact again. Can I get your phone number? Are you on Facebook? What's your Twitter ID, your Twitter handle, these kinds of things. If you don't want to communicate again, you never want to talk to this person again, or they don't want to talk to you, likely you won't exchange that type of information. This is really important here, these key concepts. As you talk to someone, your uncertainty and discomfort should decrease. If the person expresses themselves in a nonverbal way that you identify with, uncertainty will decrease. The more uncertain you are, the more information you're going to try to find out, but the less intimacy will be characterizing your content. High levels increase reciprocity, while low levels may decrease it, etc. So check out these key concepts, read the examples in the book until you feel comfortable in your understanding of uncertainty reduction theory. The theory can also be expanded, such as what are some of the conditions that activate uncertainty reduction processes? What are some strategies and tactics? If the person you're talking to is not a stranger, how does that change the nature of the interaction and the uncertainty? And how does this apply in social media context? All these are discussed in your textbook. And finally, we know from just common sense that context can influence uncertainty. So again, those are discussed and defined in the textbook. So I hope you will use this PowerPoint as a guide to what is most important to focus on in the textbook. And I also hope that you'll let me or your instructor know if you have any questions. Thanks for listening.